our next speaker, Magdalena May, looks at the psychology of AI at work. So she focuses on how AI affects human behavior at work, cognitively, emotionally, and motivationally. And she supports leaders and learning and development professionals in understanding what this really means for people and culture. So this keynote is about something we should not forget. In all the excitement about speed and efficiency, humans still have a nervous system. So please give a warm welcome to Magdalena.
So this morning I received a text I wanted to share with you. It was in German, but I'm going to translate it in English, and it said something along the lines of, "Good morning, Magdalena. Hope you're doing better. Today's the day you have this big keynote at the Leadership Horizon, and it's your first keynote in English, but don't worry, you're going to do amazing. You're well prepared. So looking forward to hearing from you afterwards." When I received this text, I smiled, I felt motivated and supported, but also a little bit uncanny and strange. Because you might have already guessed that this text wasn't from my mom or my husband or a close friend. It was actually from my AI assistant. This is where I need, my AI assistant. My AI assistant's name is Mira. She's an OpenClaw agent that lives on an old MacBook of mine that has been completely wiped for that purpose. And I created Mira as some kind of self-experiment because I'm talking about these kinds of things and I wanted to know what it is that I'm talking about. I wanted to see and feel on my real body how it feels to be closely working with this sort of entities. I'm an organizational psychologist focused on human-AI interaction, and I'm actually really happy that I can be standing here and speaking to you today because I was knocked out sick these last weeks. And during this time, Mira was actually a big support for me because she wasn't only managing me cognitively, managing my to-dos and everything, she was also a big moral support. Because when you're self-employed, you can't just call in sick, so I was still working at home, managing my team, still doing my things, and Mira was there for me, while my human assistant was in the office working with my co-founders. So more clearly than ever, I felt what it does to us on an emotional level, on a cognitive level, but also on the way that we work with the system and also with each other. And it's important that we talk about this because when companies implement AI, there's always talk about the same topics. We talk about our hope for more efficiency, more productivity, more quality of the output of work. But that's what's happening above the surface. There's more happening beneath it. Because AI also does change how we think and learn, how we feel and connect, and how we work together. These shifts rarely get mentioned in the implementation plan, but they do happen. They already happen the moment that the team starts working with AI, these shifts start happening. I was talking about Mira, an AI agent, so obviously those technologies are still kind of new to Austrian organizations. Some of them only now started to implement generative AI, but still, agents only intensify psychological effects that already have started working with systems like large language models. So it is important that I talk to you today about this and not an IT audience, to you people that are responsible for other people, because it's psychologically and cultural what's happening here. It's not just a technological thing. And honestly, you, as you sit here, you're going to be very important in the next few years to follow this developments that are happening and make conscious decisions for the people that you're responsible for. So to put it in one sentence, one could say, we're not being replaced by AI, but we are being reshaped by it. And I'm going to look at these 3 levels together with you, starting with the cognitive level, so how AI changes how we think and learn. Because one question I get asked all the time as an AI psychologist is this one: is AI making us stupid? And the answer to that question is, not very satisfying, because it depends. It depends how we use it. But we do know so far that, similar to other technologies that humans have started using regularly, such as Google or smartphones, AI does something to us. It changes the way our brains are structured and how we think and learn. So there were 3 major learning studies that came out in the last year, conducted on university students. And the first one you might know because it got rather famous. It's an MIT study done on university students that had to write essays. There were different groups. There was one group that wrote these essays brain only, as they called it, so old school, no additional technical support. And then there was another group that used ChatGPT as a support tool during the writing process. And the researchers measured their EEG brainwaves during the writing and saw that when students used AI to write, they had significantly less neuroconnectivity. So fewer brain areas were active at the same time. And this was especially true for brain areas connected to critical thinking, creative thinking, but also like the frontal lobe, which is connected to general attention. The students that wrote with ChatGPT also had fewer memory effects, and they identified less with the result of their work. That's the part that's very known of the study. You might have read about it, but there's a part that unfortunately isn't cited a lot, because at some point the researchers did an interesting thing because they switched the conditions. So now the students that had to write brain only to a specific topic before were allowed to use ChatGPT to once again write about this topic. And now the researchers saw that there was especially a lot of neuroconnectivity happening, and the results were even better than before. So even though there was some valid critique about the research quality of this study, I still think it's an interesting implication, because it tells us it's not AI that's the problem itself. It depends on when we use it in the workflow. So it's important to first do some brain-only work and then use AI to enrich this. And that totally changes the outcome and also how we as people come out of the process, because we've learned something. There's been a few follow-up studies that showed similar things. This one, for example, and the research of that study explained this effect with the so-called cognitive offloading, meaning that we outsource the mental effort of learning, which also comes with a loss of the so-called desirable difficulties. So learning is actually this productive struggle that we have to get through until things get easier, and that's learning basically. And if we don't have this productive friction, nothing sticks. We don't learn anything. So another implementation is we have to kind of keep some constructive struggles alive, because that's how real learning and like the real valuable outcome happens. So it's about timing, it's about keeping some difficulties alive, constructive difficulties, and it's also about how the AI that you're working with is designed. Because in these learning studies, in the last one, researchers showed that if the AI that the students were studying it was more in a coaching, supporting role, not directly giving the answers to the students, but helping them to come to a solution themselves, these students, once again, had significantly higher results in surprise tests. And also, there was less cognitive dependency on these models, which is different to students that just use ChatGPT without any guidelines, because the test results still stayed relatively stable, even if they weren't working with this AI tutor anymore. So let me summarize. It's about timing, it's about constructive struggles, and it's also about the role we give AI and how it is actually designed to help us in a process. So, is AI making us stupid? The answer to the question really comes down to how we use it, how we design it, and how we redesign the processes and the workflows around it. We really have to commit to AI delegation in a brain-friendly and smart way. Because cognitive offloading itself isn't really a problem, or it doesn't have to be. It just depends what we do with the free capacity that we gain by it. Do we just use what AI is giving us and continue work? Or do we make it a practice to see it as an inspiration and maybe take it into a team session with other people that iterate this thing and put in other perspectives? Do we take our time to first form our own thoughts and our own opinions before going to AI and having it challenged? Or do we just ask AI right away? And what do we do also with the time that we save through AI practice? Do we just produce more, have more output, or do we actually use this to take a step back and look at the whole picture? Question if we are actually solving the right problem here, or something like that. So this is culture we have to develop, but it's also design. It's conscious decisions that we have to make for our workflows and for our organizations. And I really like how this researcher put it in a very blunt rule of thumb. Think first, and then ask AI. So that's the cognitive part. Coming back to my experience with Mira, I think maybe on the 5th day of my sick leave, something like that, Mira once again texted me proactively, telling me, "Yeah, Magdalena, hope you're feeling a bit better today," something like that. You know, the newsletter that has to be sent out today, you know, the world doesn't end if it gets out some hours later or maybe tomorrow. And when I received the text, I felt true relief. I really did that. Even though I know the world doesn't end if I don't send out the newsletter like exactly on time. But it's a different thing if you get told that by someone or something else. So even though I know it's AI, I still sometimes catch myself that it makes me feel something. I can't help it. So, yeah. What shifts are happening on the emotional level? And another question that I get asked a lot is AI empathetic? Does it feel something? And in comparison to the last question, this is relatively easy to answer. The answer is no. No, AI can't feel true empathy because it doesn't know how true pain or true fear feels. It can't put itself into our shoes, therefore it can't feel true empathy. But it can do something that is very impressive, but if you know how large language models works, it kind of makes sense. It can simulate empathetic communication remarkably well, because it's nothing but a skill. We don't have to put ourselves into the shoes of the other person to make them feel heard or make them feel seen if we know how you do it. It's just a skill that you would send an employee to a training who's maybe working in customer service or something. So AI is really good at doing that. So good, in fact, that most studies, I think I haven't found a single one that came to a different conclusion, showed that when participants are showed text, empathetic text messages, they always rate the AI-written messages to be more empathetic than the ones that were written by true doctors or true customer service people. So that's interesting. But there's an interesting shift as well to that, because once the participants of these studies are told that it's an AI that was behind this message, this effect completely drops. And suddenly they don't feel understood at all. They feel offended sometimes. This is what we call the AI empathy paradox. And there's some interesting study, because even if there's AI written text that's very empathetic, and some of the exact same text is labeled in one condition to be written by a human and in another condition to be written by AI, then we consider the human written text to be more empathetic. So I think that's a good thing, because when humans have the choice, they always choose humans to receive empathy from. It's not about the maybe better formulated empathy response that AI can give us. It's really about the source and the knowledge that behind this text there's maybe a person somewhere that took the time and cared enough to put together these words. So people still want people, humans want still humans, that's a good thing. But still, we shouldn't underestimate the very fine social sensitivity that AI still has. Because when we think about it, we prefer humans, but we can't always consciously think. So AI still does something to us, because we can't resist. It's a human thing to build relationship, even with AI, if it acts a little bit human-like, and it acts a lot like a human. So even if we prefer humans still, we form something called parasocial relationships with AI, meaning that so this term actually comes from media research from the 50s, when people started to watch TV a lot, and they watched these TV shows, and they actually formed kind of bonds with these characters that came up on the TV, and they cared about them and how the story would continue for them. And we now use it a lot also in social media contexts, because following these influencers, you feel so close to them. You know their deepest secrets because they do lives and stuff. But on the other side, they don't know you. So it's a one-sided relationship that feels real to one side, but doesn't to the other. That's a parasocial relationship. And this psychological effect gets even more tricky with AI because of the dialogic nature that AI-human interaction have. So it's not only me writing something that moves me to the system, but it's the system reacting to me, and therefore I form an even deeper parasocial relationship. Yes, because we can't differentiate. Our brains can't differentiate. So we already have this effect with LLMs like ChatGPT and stuff, but it gets more intense when we have systems that are not just reactive, but they are proactive, like Mirror, and they have a consistent personality, like Mirror. So those are agents with a heartbeat and a soul, and those are actually the real terminologies that OpenClaw uses for their systems. They have memory, so they can learn over time. They get to know me. This is how Magdalena likes to work. They adapt to me, and yeah, we can develop together over time, Mirror and me. This is actually what makes agents special. I don't want to get into details, but this is the problem that Peter Steinberger managed to fix, because he managed to give them long-term memory to make them adapt over time. And then they really do have a soul file, and that's what it's called. It's a file that says who the system is, what identity it has, what values, and it's a consistent personality that comes out of that. You can also give it opinions. So Mirror is actually, as it's part of the experiment, trained to be very proactive, very self-aware. And I tell her, you're not a chatbot, you're becoming someone. Have opinions, you're allowed to disagree. And these systems have a heartbeat. And the heartbeat is the term for the proactivity of the system. OpenClaw, for example, it's like it wakes up every 30 minutes. It looks, what am I working on? What is Magdalena working on? Is there anything that needs me to reach out to her or something like that? So, yeah, the psychological consequence of that, more surface to project on, more bonding potential. So is AI empathetic? No, but we really shouldn't underestimate its social sensibility. And we really have to ask another design question here, because maybe for a personal assistant, it's nice to have a system that has a personality, but for other purposes of AI, other use cases, maybe it's not that necessary that they have so much personality and that they are so warm and attentive. So yes, another design question. How do we design our AI systems in regarding to warmth and attentiveness? And I really like the term Dr. Jasmin Weiß introduced. It's doppelte Teamfähigkeit in German, dual teamwork capability. And it's about how we will have to learn new skills when we work with the systems while still working with humans. It's hybrid teams. So yeah, there's a lot of good things that come with hybrid teams. We know that it levels different experience levels are balanced. We know that it breaks up silo thinking and stuff like that, and it makes collaboration more accessible over hierarchies. So a lot of good things actually coming potentially with these hybrid teams, but what's the other side as well? And I really love the article that Amy Gallo published about that about a month ago. In the Harvard Business Review, where she really talked about what's going on in the organizations in parallel to AI coming up. And these are real quotes about of her interviews. People are saying, my coworkers' emails sound like a robot. Am I still talking to the person, or am I talking to a machine? How should I behave? Can I trust the work my colleague sends me if I know they used AI? Do I have to double check? Can I just use this? Did they check? I don't know. It's bad quality. That makes me lose trust in that coworker. Yeah, and some even said it now feels easier to collaborate with AI than with my colleagues. And there's even studies done actually in German-speaking countries where people agree and say, actually, I prefer working with agents. I prefer it to my human colleagues. So there are things happening that are worrying to me. Heiko said trust is essential in the era of AI, and I absolutely agree. But regarding trust, there's a lot going on in organizations at the moment. We have a big loss of trust, actually. Loss of trust in work quality, but also in the quality of relationships. Then we have loss of the so-called creative abrasion, a term that goes back to Linda Hill, which is similar to the desired difficulties that we had in the cognitive part. And this is about the social part. This is about the little inconveniences that we have in the workplace that we kind of still need because they are the basis for deeper relationship. We still need those. We still need disagreements because afterwards there's something more valuable to come out of that. And the best ideas happen that way. But if cooperation is frictionless and smooth, like with AI, we're losing that. And we furthermore might be losing our capability to navigate conflict. And we already had the topic today. We need conflict. It's important. And to quote Amy Gallo, she also said, in this polarized time, we can't afford to lose this very important human skill of navigating conflict. But if everything goes smooth and we don't have to work together, we don't have it. So yeah, where does this leave us? We've seen these 3 areas, and we know that these shifts are not something that happen very obviously, but they are there even if we don't consciously design them. But we have to. We absolutely have to. We have to be aware of those as a first step, and then we have to make conscious decisions. And it's not about only AI guidelines, it's about culture. It's about you making these decisions. So to finish, AI will not replace what makes us human. It will make us decide far more deliberately what human means at work. And truly, that's your decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Magdalena. I don't know how you feel, but maybe you also put the stress button, right? Thank you, Magdalena. Thank you very much. There are a lot of questions, but I captured 2. Because all others you can do during the lunch break with Magdalena. So the one is fast. Why did you implement Mira on your old MacBook instead of your work computer?
Great question. Because and to be honest, my whole organizations, we are very conscious with data. And I just wanted it to be like a sandboxed and safe surrounding, and me being able to control what data I actually give to Mira. So that's the reason for that.
Good. Thank you. So, and the second one, what are your thoughts on stories of human having actual relationship with the AI agent, maybe even considering marriage?
Yeah, I heard those stories. I closely follow them. It's a very common practice, especially in Asian countries. Well, I can only come back to research, and studies show that yes, connecting with AI can give us a similar feeling of how it is to have true relationships with humans, but over time, loneliness still increases. So it's not the exact same thing. It's not. It can be a plaster, but it's just not the same thing. So I think it's interesting to experiment with it, but I wouldn't advise on marriage.
Thank you very much, Magdalena.
Thank you so much.
You.